What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to episode number 16 of Coast to Coast College Football Pregame Show. I am your number one ranked host, Uncle Shally. You can call me Bill Shawcross. And Alex didn't like it. And as always, the two gentlemen with me help me steer the ship each and every week. Got my Buckeye brother from another mother, Mr. Cottrell Simpson. How are you this morning, sir?
Doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. Cannot complain. How are you guys doing?
Good. I mean, it's any week where college football dominates the sports landscape nationally is a good week for me and a good week for us. So before we get into everything, I got my Mr. West Coast guy, Mr. West Coast brother, looking like the Unabomber today. Mr. I Black, Alex Elmore. How are you, sir?
I said the exact same when I put these on. I was like, damn, that was kind of Unabomber-ish. But then I thought to myself, I got some opinions on today's show that's probably going to separate me from everybody else. So this will disguise my identity so people don't recognize me in the streets. So we're about to get into some good stuff today. Good morning. Thanks for having me. And you know what, Bill? You are the number one host on this show.
I appreciate it. So listen, we do have a jam-packed show this morning. Obviously, if you haven't been living under a rock, a lot of controversy with college football this week. We are going to recap all the conference championship games because there were some good ones. Obviously, we're going to go into the rankings. We're going to the Florida State situation, and we will still, we'll preview the Army Navy game, the big one today. Some people say call that game the only game that matters. I tend to agree. Love the Army Navy game. We will preview that as well. And then we will get into some transfer portal news because it's been absolutely chaotic. There are teams that are still playing that have guys leaving for the portal. There are some huge names in the portal already with some pretty strong connections to some teams that are still playing, some other big name programs that are looking to replace people right away. So the transfer portal has been high paced and crazy already. So we will touch on that as well. So we have a lot to get into, and last but not least, we will get into Bowl Mania and introduce that and tell you what we're going to do with that, and that's always fun every year. All you got to do is pick the winner of the games. Me and Cottrell have gone down. I don't know. You had a bad year last year, didn't you? Or was Gene the one that had a bad year last year?
It wasn't. I don't think my year was bad, but you always end up beating me in Bowl Mania. Like last 3 years, we've done like our pick'em segments, like. I win pick 'em for the regular season. Bowl season comes and it's not even close.
I mean, I got to win something. I thought I beat you in pick 'em one year by like one game, and you've won the other two. I don't go back and look.
Yeah, I have to look. I don't think so though. But you've definitely been murder me in Bowl Mania. That's for sure. Now Alex is here. Alex he's been on top of things. I don't know if everybody peeped the smaller bowl, though not bowls, but conference championships last week.
I'm good with those shitty, with the small teams, small schools playing.
Listen,
I can read those like nobody's business.
That's where you win, man. That's what I've done the last 3 years actually. You build up a big lead, getting all the little bowl games right at the end. You just make everybody try to catch you, and it just gets too hard at the end because too many people have the same pick. So, but we'll get into all that because that is fun. We do that every year. So. But we got to start. We got to start right with the recaps. We're going to go right in the conference championship games. 5 or 6 big games last year. People punched their tickets. As always, I think Cottrell is the mystery man with the slide. So he dictates where we start. Mystery man. He dictates where we start.
So technology. It's great sometimes, not great other times. But we'll start. Michigan and Iowa. That's the first one we got here. Let's just get it out the way because there's nothing to go over.
There's not. We'll go over this real quick. Contrary to, I hope you didn't listen to Alex, but if you didn't do that, you were fine. If you didn't do that, this game went exactly how the other 99 people you talked to told you it was going to go. Iowa couldn't move the ball. They had under 200 yards of total defense. Michigan dominated, on the line of scrimmage. Very, very vanilla game plan. They actually threw the ball more than I thought they were going to. Blake Corum had a very so-so game. He had 2 touchdowns. Like I said, JJ played well, hit his spots when he had to. They let their defense do their thing. They just dominated Iowa on both sides of the ball. 26-0, another shutout victory. Michigan is number one in almost every single defensive category at this point across the board in the country. I'll let Alex jump in here because he saw this game going completely different. But this was a very show up, take care of your business, get the W, get the Big Ten trophy, and then get ready for Selection Sunday. Very workmanlike effort by Michigan. Didn't put anything on tape. They didn't want to, which I thought was nice. And they just did their thing and they dominated like they have been all year. Alex, you predicted a huge upset in this game, enormous upset.
Yeah.
Buck Cottrell gave you your flowers a little too early on the show today because you did get a couple wrong, starting with this one.
I got a couple wrong. All right, there was like 7 games. I got to get one wrong every once in a while. And also, not to mention, I don't know if you saw College Game Day, but they were all picking Iowa too. They had the same gut feeling.
Yeah, right? We'll get into that later.
And Bill, you watched the game. Cottrell, did you watch the Michigan-Iowa game, or were you watching the other game that was on at the time?
I peeked back and forth. I mean, I knew that game was going to go the way it did, so I didn't lock in. That's for sure.
So I locked in. All right, I made nachos. I have an Iowa shirt on. I had the TV on full blast. I was ready to go. All right, and Bill, I know you watched the whole game. I know you had a little get together, so you maybe missed a little bit of it. But when I was looking at this game, Iowa's defense played absolutely fantastic against Michigan. Iowa had 3 turnovers. Iowa's defense wasn't able to force one. And unfortunately, Michigan was able to get 10 points off of those 3 turnovers. But honestly, this was probably one of the best games I've seen Iowa play from start to finish against a far superior opponent. Bill, maybe you could at least give Iowa a little bit of flowers. They played a lot better in this game, and this game looked a lot closer than the 26-0 score. I'm
not gonna say it was closer. Listen, Iowa's offense is I don't know the word for it. Trash is a good word. They're the 7th ranked defense in the country. A lot of people are like, oh, Michigan only put up 26, and you look at the Big Ten East. There's 3 of the top 6 defenses in the country reside in the Big Ten East. Iowa's number 7. Their defense is the reason they got to this game in the first place. If this team had any kind of offense, this would be a very formidable opponent for anybody in the Big Ten or throughout the country. They just don't have difference makers on the offensive side on the ball. They've had OC issues with Brian Ferentz. Sorry, they already announced they were letting him go. They got to bring somebody in that's going to come with some kind of creativity. It's hard to play the type of offense they want to when you don't have the guys to do it. They have a decent offensive line, but like for instance, like Ohio State are a little bit withstanding, but they kind of want to line up and play, run the ball, run play action off that, and play kind of like Michigan and Penn State and to some degree Ohio State. They just don't have the people to do that. They don't have the dominating offensive line like those 3 teams do. They don't have the quarterback like those 3 teams do. They don't have the skill position and running back and wide receivers like they do. So it's very hard to play that type of offense and play that type of football. We just don't have the horses to do it. They need to come up with something else. They need to start from ground zero. Try to do whatever they can to get maybe some skill guys out of the portal and rebuild that offense, because it is a shame. It is a shame when you're watching them lose games or win games 13-10 and they're relying on punting and turnovers. That's all good and well, but when you truly play elite teams that can just line up and just do what they want to some degree, they don't stand a chance. And that's what you saw this year with Iowa. They lost badly to Penn State. You guys didn't play them this year, did you, Cottrell?
We did not.
No,
only Penn State got them.
Yeah, so and that's what would happen if they would have played anybody else. Ohio State or Michigan during the regular season. I think Kirk Ferentz is a very good coach. He's been there forever. There's a reason for that. They have to change their philosophy offensively.
Defensive coordinator just won the assistant coach of the year last night. He definitely
Burroughs Award. Yep, absolutely.
And also, honestly, I'm sorry, Cottrell, I know you got some stuff to say real quick. When you watch Iowa play, they have a couple great playmakers. They just really need a quarterback that leads them. Maybe next year when Cade McNamara comes back, maybe it looks a little different with a new offensive coordinator. But LaShawn Williams, fantastic running back. Just when you load the box, not a lot of running backs are going to have success. And so with a new offensive coordinator next year and Caleb Brown on the outside, who was a sophomore wide receiver, great hands. You get a quarterback with some, just like you said, an visionary offensive coordinator. They could be averaging 24 points a game next year, and that defense, they'll be a little scary. So I'm excited for next year, Cottrell. I'm sorry I took your time. You go for it, man.
So, I mean, I think the biggest thing is what you guys hit on. Obviously, Iowa's biggest problem is their offense. And so I think for Iowa to be successful, especially with where the Big Ten is headed next year with, adding the teams, getting rid of the divisions, I truly think Iowa, if they want to be competitive next season, they're going to have to bring in not just an offensive, like a great offensive mind, but I almost think they have to bring in somebody who is kind of like before their time, like bring in like a super young guy with a new scheme that is, it's tough because I know the McVays, the Shanahans, they don't grow on trees, but like you got to bring in a young name like that, like a Joe Brady, like that kind of guy. Obviously, you're not going to bring in, any of those NFL guys, but you have to bring in a great mind. Maybe look towards the MAC or the AAC, like with some of these high-powered offenses. And, I know you probably won't be able to steal a head coach per se, but maybe you steal their OC. Like you got to do something to make yourself competitive because, like we mentioned already, Iowa's defense, they can compete with the best of them. But that offense looks absolutely horrible. But, I mean, if we're being honest, though, Iowa is a football school. So it's not like people won't go to Iowa to play some good ball. And if, the defense is playing like that and you got an offense that's, averaging somewhere between 25 to 30 points a game, you got a team that's going to be able to contend to make the college football playoff every single year because that defense is going to get you there.
Yeah, I mean they have no problem recruiting on the defensive side of the ball. It's the offense is where it's just really where the issue is. And I think the struggle for going forward now is there's not going to be divisions in the Big Ten anymore. So I hate to say it, but you just go back and look at the results. The Big Ten East just dominated the Big Ten for the last decade. There's not going to be the automatic kind of gift walk, cakewalk, into the Big Ten championship game for all the teams in the West like there was anymore. They're all just getting thrown in one big pot now. And then on top of that, you're adding Oregon, Washington, UCLA, and USC. So it's anybody who makes the Big Ten championship game going forward. It's going to be a grind, and it's you're definitely going to earn it to get there. So this is kind of Iowa's probably last real good chance to get there in the foreseeable future, but we'll see how it plays out. Like Cottrell said, they hit dynamite and get somebody we're not thinking of and turn the offense around, then it's it's a different story there in Iowa. So let's go to the Big 12 championship game. This is another one turned out exactly how I think a lot of people thought it was going to. Oklahoma State's been very inconsistent all year. They won the one game they had to keep Oklahoma out of this game, and that's not their fault. This just if we're being honest, this isn't the game that we wanted to see. We were all hoping for a Red River rivalry rematch and have Texas versus Oklahoma again, but it wasn't to be. Texas did the same thing Michigan did. They came out, handled business. This game was never really close. It was never in doubt. Quinn Ewers came out, had a great game, 452 yards, 4 touchdowns. I believe that's a Big 12 championship game record. I thought they were talking about that. Tied it.
He tied the record with 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, I knew it was close.
Did he break the yards?
I thought he had the yards.
I
thought he had yards, yeah. So, Quinn Ewers' first year there on campus obviously has left his mark, on the Big 12 already. It's the last Big 12 championship game as we know it. Same kind of thing as the Big 10. Texas and Oklahoma are going to the SEC next year. Oklahoma State, you got to give them credit, and I think they're a program that I think a lot of years kind of gets just overshadowed a little bit from Texas and Oklahoma. But, Mike Gundy is one of those guys. He seems to win 9 or 10 games every freaking year. Every freaking year, Mike Gundy wins 10 games somehow. So they'll go to a decent bowl game this year again. Alan Bowman was transferred in from Michigan. Ollie Gordon just couldn't get going. And he's a very good running back. Texas just shut him down from the get-go. Really never let Oklahoma State get into the running game. And then Texas was putting points on the board too quick of a pace where Oklahoma State really had to come out of their shell and play offense the way they don't want to. And then the game just kind of got ugly. So, Cottrell, let you hop in here, but Texas Texas pretty much dominant. Like I said, business like, they came out and did what they had to do. Take care of business, get the W, and, get on to Sunday and wait for everybody to make the announcement. We can't hear you.
I think the big thing was that they left no doubt. They came out early. They did what they had to do. The offense looked great, and then they left. Like, it was quite literally that simple. They knew that if they went out there and won that game rather convincingly, that they would have a spot in the college football playoff. Like, that's the reality of the situation. I know we're going to get into, how everything went down, but, one way or another, they knew they pretty much had a spot as long as they took care of business in their game. So they did obviously need a little bit of help, but again, like I said, with the other matchups that were happening, they knew you win rather convincingly. You got as good of a shot as anybody else of making it to the playoff, and obviously they did.
Yeah, I mean, Quinn Ewers was impressive the entire day. The first half, he had 4 touchdowns. He tied the Big 12 championship record with the most touchdown passes at 4 in the first half. I watched the whole second half not to see Texas obliterate Oklahoma State, but I was hoping to see history. He never ended up throwing that last touchdown pass. The only touchdown he scored in the second half was a long 54-yard touchdown run by Kylan Robinson, who he came out of nowhere this last game, had a really big game, only 4 carries, 75 yards, 2 tutties. He played really well, and Texas did exactly like what I said they needed to do last week, which was eliminate Ollie Gordon. Oklahoma State has 4 losses this season. In 3 of those games, Ollie Gordon has not been. All three of the 4 losses, Ollie Gordon has not gone over 35 yards rushing. That seems to be the key with this Oklahoma State team. Is load the box, keep him absolutely eliminated from getting yardage past the line of scrimmage, and you're going to have great success against the Oklahoma State team. They truly need that run game to set up the pass, and Texas was able to make them one-dimensional early. He only touched the ball 13 times, and that's a definite recipe for success when you can hold the rushing player of the year or the running back of the year to only 34 yards. What's up, Russ? How you doing, buddy? Thanks for watching.
Yeah, I mean, Quinn Ewers, listen, he's had hype behind him since he got there. Had a good start to last year, got hurt, but he's been great this year. And that's another game. When he drops back and Texas, that line holds up, it gives him time to throw with that wide receiver core he has. He's very good. He's very dangerous. Let's go to the ACC. This is some more along the lines of if you like watching football back in like 1940. But that being said, Florida State, this was the team that everybody said they were going to lose, and this was going to eliminate every controversy because Louisville was going to go out and smoke them, and so forth and so on. Man, their defense just showed up and just said absolutely not today, not on our watch. They got the news right before kickoff that their backup quarterback was not going to play. They went to a true freshman, their third-string quarterback. I was watching this game with Gene. It was kind of hysterical. This guy got into the huddle the first time, and his eyes couldn't have been open any bigger. I mean, he was this. You can't blame the kid, but scared to death might be a pretty accurate representation of what we were looking at. Brock Glenn had a difficult night, to say the least. But like I said, he's an 18-year-old kid. He's a true freshman. I don't think he had any idea that he was going to play. But Florida State went out and just put the clamps down on Louisville. First time in the last 4 years that a Jeff Brom team has been held under 200 yards, 200 total yards in offense. Florida State got it done. They won 16-6. They won the ACC. There's just a lot of people all around the country just waiting for this team to falter, to make it easy on the committee and everything else, and they didn't do it. I give so much credit to Mike Norvell and that coaching staff and that defense for just going out and be like, we have to win the game for everybody on this team tonight, and they did. I think it was an outstanding effort. Like I said, I can't give those kids enough credit for what they went out and did on Saturday night.
Yeah, and I thought the interesting thing, too, was that Florida State's game plan coming in was we are going to run the football and try to run it effectively as possible. And what ended up being successful for them was getting in the Wildcat. So Lawrence Toafili, like he was their Wildcat guy. He was taking direct snaps. And, the two biggest plays of the game were two long runs by him. So I give Florida State all the credit in the world. Obviously, with Florida State, I'll say the passing attack, really wasn't there. Didn't expect it to be there, but I mean, hey, at the end of the day, if you get the job done, you beat a team that was considered the 14th best team in the country according to the rankings before. It's a good win, especially knowing the circumstances and knowing that you were playing with your third string quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching this game and I was kind of flipping back and forth because honestly, I thought Louisville was going to run all over Florida State, with Jack Plummer, Jawar Jordan, and Jamari Thrash. I was talking a big game, last week about how Louisville was going to be hitting on all cylinders and absolutely take care of business against Florida State. And really, Florida State's defense just really clamped down and held Louisville to, like Bill said, under 200 yards of total offense. I've been looking over the numbers. Jawar Jordan, only 14 carries. When your quarterback and Jack Plummer is, completing less than 50% of his passes, and the game was within a one-possession game late in the second half, you got to lean on your workhorse back of Jawar Jordan and give him the ball. Throw him, out routes, throw him little dump-off passes, get him the ball on the outside. Do something to give him the ball to allow him to make plays. In the last 3 weeks, Miami, Kentucky, and Florida State have all kind of loaded the box against Jawar Jordan, and they've held him under 4 yards per carry over the last 3 games. And for a guy who's averaging 6 yards a carry over the season, that's really hurting that offense. In the last 3 games, it's all been one possession, obviously, with them losing by 10 in this game. All 3 of those guys are capable of coming back next year. All of them are eligible. If they do and they are interested in coming back, I know that Louisville is looking at some transfer portal guys. Louisville has a really high ceiling next year, and I'm excited to see what they go on to next year and what they're able to accomplish. But Florida State's defense really stepped up and showed everybody, like, hey, we are not a quarterback-only team. We are 22 guys on this field, and we are going to be, absolutely dominating this game from start to finish. And really, just defensively, they did that. And kind of like Bill said, it's kind of like a 1940s defensive battle. I'm more of a West Coast guy. More of those, I enjoy more of those 42-35 games myself. But this was a good game, and I was just expecting Louisville to make that comeback in that fourth quarter, and it never came. So good job in Florida State, and being able to keep focused and doing what they had to do what they thought they had to do to get in.
Alex, you better get used to some 1940s football because it's about to be a new day in the Big Ten.
Man, Oregon's going to drop 35 points a game every Big Ten game. I'm not worried.
We play defense in the Big Ten, buddy.
So does Oregon. We're top 10 defense in the country.
Yeah, and then you play an offense. Then you play an offense with the pulse, and they drop 40.
Next game.
Probably not gonna like what's next. All right, he spared you. I would have went there to put the foot on the throat there.
We talked about it last week.
SEC championship game. Depending on which side of this you're on, I don't think anybody's surprised that Bama won. I think a lot of people thought Georgia would pull this game out. But we all expected this kind of football game. We got exactly what we thought we were going to get. Back and forth battle. Big punch after big punch. Both teams kept answering. I felt the way, Bama kind of jumped out early. I was like, oh, we might be in trouble. Georgia answered right away. And then it was just down the stretch. I just feel like I felt like Georgia was just inches away from making the big play over and over and over, and they just couldn't do it. And they were one play away from, kind of really, getting a lead back and possibly winning this game. And to Alabama's credit, defense just kind of clamped down and really started putting pressure on Carson Beck. And, it's kind of a look that we didn't really see often this year. They got him off the spot a little bit or made him rush his throws, and he was a little bit inaccurate, and he's a little bit, it's not as smooth as he was all year. They couldn't get the running game going. I know Kendall Melton had 2 TDs, but no big chunk plays whatsoever. Brock Bowers, they pretty much held in check for as much as you can. 5 yards, 5 receptions, 53 yards is nothing for him. And he was one of the big guys. Alabama made a very, concerted effort to make sure that Brock Bowers was not the guy that was going to beat them Saturday night. They bracketed him a lot on both sides, or had a guy over top, when he came across the middle all the time. Did a very good job of limiting his looks and limiting the windows that Carson Beck could throw the ball to him. On the other side of the ball, I thought Jalen Milroe had an okay game. Again, he's under, right around 50% for passing. He's become more of a threat running now. We'll talk about this, when we get further down the road with the college football playoff. But that is the dynamic of the game that has made Alabama better since he started running the ball more. That being said, you got to be able to pass it. I don't know if 50% is going to get it done against some of these really good defenses, but Alabama did what they had to do. Again, not surprised. Total Nick Saban coach-up job. Went in, won the big one, and they took care of business, and just another SEC championship to put into the cabinet for Nick Saban and the boys, and they took care of business and put their best foot forward for the college football playoff committee.
Yeah, I mean, this game really went almost to a T exactly how I thought it would go. I really thought that Bama was going to win this game, and I thought the big thing would be Jalen Milroe using his legs. I mean, anytime Bama needed a first down, Jalen Milroe was getting outside the pocket, and he was able to run for a couple first down. Now, I will say the one thing that I was very surprised that Georgia did, that was probably the first time I've ever seen this done. They were putting 2 QB spies on Jalen Milroe at the same time. And I was like, that is so much respect, and taking 2 defenders out of your secondary and, just out of those zones. Like that's unprecedented. And so I love that adjustment that Kirby had for Milroe, but it got to a time where, he was making the right throws. And, I know the numbers aren't flashy by any means, but Alabama was consistently moving the ball up and down the field against this Georgia defense. So it was a fun chess match to watch for sure. And then, on the other side of the ball, I think Alabama this is the most uncomfortable this Georgia team has probably felt offensively the entire season. Alabama was rushing the passer. They were, pretty relentless there, and they were coming in and filling gaps. Georgia was a team that, we saw a few instances in that game where it was 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, and Bama was coming downhill and making tackles and making sure they didn't kill them in the short yardage game. So I think that's really where Bama won. They won in the trenches, and at the end of the day, Nick Saban doesn't lose in those SEC championship games. So he just has a knack for getting his team ready to go for the big ones.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama definitely came ready to play. Honestly, I think Georgia came ready to play. Honestly, this game was probably one of the better bowl games of the weekend for sure. Carson Beck, 21 for 29, 243 yards. He had moments he had flashes of greatness in this game. Obviously Brock Bowers was held to only 53 yards receiving. But for me, the main difference in this game was special teams and turnovers. There's only one turnover in this game. That was a fumble by Georgia. On that drive, Alabama turned it into 3 points. Again, early in the first half, field goal, missed opportunity by Georgia. Again, that's another 3 points on the board. In a game like this, with talented players like this, with amazing coaches in the SEC championship game, you can't have turnovers and you can't have missed execution on field goals. And that ultimately spelled the end of the day for Georgia. They made that field goal in the first half, held onto the ball, not created any turnovers, we may be having a different discussion today. But Alabama made each opportunity they had count, and that's ultimately why they're there in this game today. But I said, Alabama, Georgia, to me, they're interchangeable as far as skill ability. And like I said, Alabama or Georgia could be in the college football playoff coming up, and I wouldn't have any disagreement with that due to the talent on both sides of the field. So this game was a great game to watch.
I think one of the biggest, differences from this game, from in the past is Georgia didn't have that dominant defense they had the last 2 years. And Cottrell mentioned what they were doing with spying on Milroe. And that worked. They forced him into a bunch of check down passes. I'll tell you the difference in this game to me is, and I rewatched it now, Georgia tackled horribly in this football game. If you look how many tackles they missed, keeping Alabama short of the sticks on on third down, and then second and third efforts got the extra yard for first downs, and Alabama, extended drives. They had Milroe, almost sacked or stopped the offensive line numerous times, and they couldn't finish the tackles. It was a difference in the game. Honestly, this was Georgia's defense. I think the game plan that Kirby came up with was great. I think they executed everything except for the tackling. And I think if they tackled better, I think they win the football game. I really mean that. But like I said, and the other guys both said, it's another classic Nick Saban job. Beginning of the year, look shaky. Don't know who's going to play quarterback. Everybody's writing them off, including myself, and other people. And then all of a sudden, here they are, 12-1 SEC champs. So we will hop into the rankings now, and this is obviously going to merge with just a general discussion of who got in and who didn't. It's been the hottest topic in all of sports. Me and Cottrell already went through the gauntlet with this once on Wednesday, with Gene, and I don't know where Alex is going to fall, on this topic, but we will put the rankings up now, and then we'll get into it and see where we go.
So don't have the. Let's see here. Give me a second here. We'll get the official rankings here.
Producer Simpson is lacking today.
But let's see.
That's a little off. He's usually right on the money, people.
Let's talk. We can still talk about it though. We know how it ended up.
That's true.
We did. It's just easier for the viewers at home to look at it. But so we can do this. So it was. I think there was really no intrigue at the top. I think everybody thought Michigan and Washington were going to be 1-2. I guess you could you could make an argument for either way. But I think with the way it went in, knowing if as long as Michigan won on Saturday and didn't, wasn't some crazy nail biting game or something like that Michigan was going to stay number one, and they did. Fortunately, we already wait. How come we didn't recap that game?
What game?
Oregon-Washington game.
We did last week.
That's
right. It was a Friday night game.
That's right. Obviously, Washington took care of business with Oregon in another very, very good football game. So they stayed number two. The mystery was going to be 3 through 5, and it. They depending on who you ask, they went the controversial route here. I knew as soon as they put Texas at number 3, I knew what they were going to do. And it became evident very quickly. A lot of people started getting pissed off very quickly before they even announced 4 or 5. They couldn't put Alabama in this without putting Texas in front of them. So when a lot of people thought that Florida State honestly should have been number 3, and then 4 and 5 should have been 4, 5, and 6 should have been between Alabama, Georgia, and Texas. I'm on that boat. That's not what they did. So when they put Texas number 3, I knew this was like the Montreal screw job with Bret Hart. I knew exactly what was coming right after this. Alabama popped up number 4. Florida State was number 5. That if they were consistent at all, Florida State would have probably been down somewhere between Ohio State and Oregon probably then. But they didn't do that. But we're going to get into all this right now. Your college football playoff 4 is Michigan, Washington, Texas, Alabama. Michigan's going to play Alabama in the Rose Bowl. Michigan had a first choice. They were obviously going to go to Pasadena. Washington kind of gets screwed being the second-ranked team in the country. They now travel down to Dallas to play Texas, which is
away game.
It's essentially a away game.
They're playing in Louisiana, I think. It's not in Texas.
Oh, I thought it was Texas because I remember.
No, the Cotton Bowl, because we play in the Cotton Bowl.
I don't think that's the Cotton Bowl though. Only because I remember them talking about on ESPN that like Texas is literally not going to have to leave the state if they win the national championship.
It's not far though. Pretty sure.
I mean,
like last game had more fights. There was a huge uproar honestly in the Pacific Northwest. about
if it is the Sugar Bowl, it'll be.
That's where they're playing. They're playing in the Sugar Bowl.
I don't know.
Yeah, and that's in Louisiana.
That's
they're in the Superdome.
Okay. So, I mean, not as bad. I mean, it's kind of the equivalent of Alabama going to California. Then, it's more Pac-10, Pac-12, Big 12, Big 10. I'm just saying the natural rivalry in the Rose Bowl. Michigan will have more people there than Alabama will. But those are your college football playoff matchups: 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3. We're not going to go super in depth in them now because we have a couple weeks to go, and we will. The week before we will break down both those games and a lot of these other New Year's 6 big game games. Florida State gets left out. That is the controversy. It has dominated all week. There are people on ESPN that have flip-flopped on it, and they're getting murdered, with old clips about them saying things. There's the conspiracy, which I think it's somewhere between a conspiracy and the truth at this point, with ESPN wanting Alabama in, for obviously SEC reasons. They've already shown their anti-Big Ten bias throughout the year because they lost all the rights to the Big Ten games. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to unpack. There's a lot of arguments you can make from both sides. I will just say a couple things first, then I'll turn it over to you two guys. I think it's disgusting what they did, and I use that word, and I think that word's accurate. I think it's disgusting to leave a 13-0, Power 5 team out of the college football playoff because of what you think might or might not happen. 6 or 7 people in that room have never played football. So for me to acknowledge what their opinion of what they think is going to happen when the Seminoles get back on the field, I take it with a grain of salt because it means nothing to me. You've never played the sport. Some of the greatest upsets in the history of college football have happened with teams being on the field that people didn't think they deserved to be there. They earned the spot to be there. Alabama had their shot to go undefeated, and they didn't take care of business. You can't punish Florida State for that. If Alabama won that Texas game at home, this wouldn't even be a discussion. We wouldn't be talking about it. Alabama dropped the ball. That's not Florida State's fault. You can't punish Florida State kids for something Alabama didn't do, and that's what they're doing because they won an SEC champion in the top 4 because of the bias within that room. I have no problem with Texas making it. I thought Texas should have been number 4. I thought Texas earned that right. Obviously, they lost to Oklahoma, but one of the head criteria for this whole thing is head-to-head. They beat Alabama head-to-head. They deserve that 4 spot. I just think it's a travesty. I think it's a travesty, and it's, a lot of rumors going around that Florida State's not going to play their bowl game. I hope they don't. I hope they come out in uniform like they're going to do it, and then they just say, nope, we're not doing it. And I hope ESPN is stuck there with 3.5 hours of dead coverage of advertisers calling in, wanting their money back, everything else. I hope they stick to ESPN in any way possible. I think it's disgusting how they laid it at the feet of Jordan Travis. It's pretty much what they made Jordan Travis out to be the scapegoat here, and I hate the way they worded it, and I hate that they did it that way. If you saw his statement, he said, "I wish I would have got hurt in week 5, so everybody could, watch this team play all year and see how good they really are."
They would have had 3 losses had he got injured.
You don't know.
He probably doesn't want to wish that.
You don't know.
I mean, if they beat Louisville, who are they losing to with their schedule?
With a backup.
I mean, they beat Florida without him. They beat Louisville without him. Like, who else would they have lost to without Jordan Travis?
I don't think that they're able to keep up with, even though Miami was down. Miami's offense was able to. Are you serious right now? Guys,
Louisville's better than Miami. Louisville's better than Miami.
Hold on a second. You guys had Wednesday to talk about this. Give me a second, Bill. All right.
I've been waiting half the year trashing Miami. Still talking. You're the most anti-Miami guy in the world.
Exactly. And I still think they would have beaten Florida State without Jordan Travis. Well, I'm not going to talk about that game specifically. You just asked who would they. I just listed a game.
No. You just put it out there. Why would Miami beat Florida State?
Well, let me pull up the games. I wasn't planning on mentioning that game specifically. Let me refresh my mind with the score. Here's the arguments. They got, because you asked the question I wasn't expecting. Look, Florida State's opponent's record was 67-76. Okay, In the ACC, this was the top 4 teams: FSU, Louisville, North Carolina State, Georgia Tech. They didn't play one of the top other 3 teams besides themselves until the ACC championship in Louisville. Okay, they only played 4 teams this year above 500, and LSU in game 1, Clemson, which had a down year, Duke without Riley Leonard, and Miami was a struggling football team at the time when they played. They have not looked great, even with Jordan Travis. 13-0 or not, this is such a generational thing where it's like everyone deserves a participation trophy. I'm sorry, the bowl committee looked at it as like, look, we are a business. We need ratings. Everyone knows whoever Florida State plays without Jordan Travis is going to steamroll them. We do not want to set that up and have a terrible last year of the Final Four college football playoff year. Going into next year's playoff, they wanted to make sure they had the best 4 matchup that they could possibly get. And unfortunately, I feel terrible for Florida State kids. Without Jordan Travis, they are not able to compete with any of those 4. Honestly, any of the top 10 teams, I think, would beat Florida State if they played them without Jordan Travis right now. So I think they got it right, plain and simple.
So here's why your point doesn't hold weight for me. You bring up Miami. We saw the train wreck that Miami was. Like, Louisville's a better team than Miami. That's like first and foremost for me. Number 2, you mentioned the ACC and you bring up NC State and you bring up Georgia Tech. Well, I mean, I guess if you want to go by the numbers, let's be honest here. We all saw college football this year. Duke is a better football team. Clemson's a better football team. And those were the teams that Florida State played. And they played Duke when Riley Leonard was also playing. I get it that he was hurt, but let's not forget Florida State was down in that game and they came back. So I don't think you can't punish them for what their wins look like, because if we're doing that, why is Washington in the playoff? I mean, they had Michael Penix Jr. and yeah, they won all their games, but I mean, against Stanford, they looked horrible. Against Arizona, they looked horrible. So do I think Washington can compete with Texas or Alabama? And they were fully healthy. So, I mean, if that's going to be the argument of what ifs here and what ifs there, they look bad against certain teams here. And I mean, that it's just, I can't go off of a what if game, because Florida State's defense, they've shown me they can slow down anybody in the country. Jaden Daniels is about to go win the Heisman. And what did they do? What did they do to Jaden Daniels?
Oh, yeah, like, let me see. He did.
They lost.
Actually, have it up right here.
They lost by 1 million.
340 receiving or passing yards and 64 rushing yards that game.
And how many turnovers? And how many turnovers?
Looks like he had an interception. I'm not sure if the fumble was him or not.
So here's the other thing I'm gonna go back on. You mentioned the top 4 in the ACC. Who were the top 4 in the SEC this year? Alabama didn't play. Georgia didn't play. LSU's 3. They mud stomped them. Florida had a down year. Tennessee was terrible this year. The SEC was not. This isn't a normal SEC. So like we're talking about Ole Miss. Is that what you're hanging your hat on for this argument? Ole Miss. And to Cottrell's point, if you want to talk about what wins look like, then how is Alabama not punished for beating South Florida by 10 and needing a 4th and 31 Hail Mary offensive pass interference miracle against a 500 Auburn team the week before, and they have a loss? How are they not held accountable for that?
Okay, well, I can tell you right now. Michigan beat Ohio State. That's a top 10 team. Washington beat Oregon twice, top 10 team. Texas beat Alabama, top 10 team. Bama beat Georgia, top 10 team. Where's the highest ranked Florida State win? 13.
What was LSU ranked at the beginning of the year?
I believe they were 11 at the time, or they were 8. Might have been 8.
So top 10.
Yeah, but finishing where the teams actually are, truly, they did not beat a top 10 team this year. According to these final rankings, the best team they beat was a 13-ranked LSU team. And that's where they finished up. That's what the college football playoff team, college football committee thinks LSU is worth, is a 13th-ranked team.
Okay. But then Alabama's only good win is Georgia. And they have a loss.
And that's the number 1 team from pretty much the entire country.
No, you said where they finished. So they beat the 6th.
Well, right, correct.
6th ranked team, right. and they have a loss. Team. And they have a loss
to a team ranked above them. So that shouldn't really hurt you. Okay.
You can't say it doesn't hurt you when everybody else didn't lose.
Jordan Travis, Florida State is averaging 39 points per game, and the two games without him, they're averaging 20 points per game. That is not an NCAA championship.
You can't excuse the loss on your home field. You can't say that, like, everybody that's pro-Alabama is like, oh, that game didn't matter. How the hell does losing by 10 points on your home field and the game wasn't that close, how does that not matter? I need somebody to explain to me without saying, oh, SEC or, oh, well, because it's Bama. That doesn't make sense. Tell me how getting your ass kicked on your home field does not matter when comparing it to an undefeated Power 5 team. Give me a logical, factual answer, because no Alabama fan, no ESPN talking head with the SEC puppet shoved up their ass, nobody's been able to do it. I am waiting for it. Somebody give it to me. Somebody explain to me how a loss, when they say every game matters every week, all of a sudden for Nick Saban and Alabama doesn't matter.
And then here's the other thing too. The reality of the situation is they're telling us that Florida State, as they sit right now, they're not better than Texas, they're not better than Alabama, but they're better than Georgia, Ohio State, and Oregon. If
Correct.
you're telling me that this team is 13-0 and they're better than Georgia, Ohio State, and Oregon, I don't know how you can't put them in the college football playoff. Now, obviously, you know, you're gonna go off. A lot of people have been going off saying like this was just a consolation prize. But if that's the case, you're not accurately rating these teams. Then I would have less of an issue with this if they would have put Florida State down at number 9. If they would have told me that Florida State, hey, we truly do not believe that you guys are able to hang there with the big boys. We're going to put you down at 9. Like, we hate to do it to you. We know you won your conference. You're undefeated, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, we think these 8 teams are better than you where you stand right now. Them putting them at 5 just shows me that they are completely gutless and they were going to do this the entire time, no matter what happened. Like, let's not act like, I get it. You know, we look at this LSU team as the best team that they beat, but they beat them. They beat Louisville. That's also in the top 15 here. They beat Clemson this year, who's also another top 25 win. Like, they have wins on their resume. I get it. You know, they don't have a win that's necessarily better than Alabama or Texas, you know, by these rankings. But look at the flip side of it. They don't have a loss that's worse than Texas. They don't have a loss that's worse than Bama's. You know why? Because they didn't lose a football game.
And everybody wants to talk about, oh, the SEC and the ACC stinks, blah, blah, blah. ACC had a 6-4 record against the SEC this year. This is not the SEC from the last 2 years. It's not. It's not a Georgia team, which was a top 5 team, maybe ever. And that is how good they were, maybe ever. This is not an Alabama team from 2018. That's not what this is. So you can't sit there and keep comparing like, oh, well, they play in the ACC. The ACC beat the SEC more than the other way around this year. Like, there's no tangible argument anywhere along the road of this dumb discussion of how they end up there. And Justin, no, because if you listened to me earlier, I said Washington should be 3. That means we would have got Texas at 4. I don't care who we play. I don't. We're gonna have to play. We're going to play them all at some point anyway to win the national championship. I don't care who we play. That argument's dumb. That's the stupid same thing Gene was trying to do. I literally said we should have got Texas, who I think a lot of people would agree is probably the most dangerous team in the top 4. That's who I thought we should have played, because I think Florida State should be 3. I don't think Alabama should be anywhere near this college football playoff.
Don't take it personal, Justin. He gets really hyped.
No, I'm not. I know, dude. I love Justin. I'm just saying that doesn't factor into my argument whatsoever. Right is right and wrong is wrong.
And my thing too. Oh, go ahead, Bill. I'll let you finish.
No, I was just gonna say, Cottrell brought up the other really good point. They didn't have the balls to do what they've said they were really doing. They kept saying, they're like, oh, we can't factor, we can't picture them playing in the college football playoff with a 3rd-string quarterback. Well, number one, that kid wasn't going to play. They would have had their backup back who went into the swamp, which is one of the most top 10 intimidating stadiums to go play in a rivalry game, and he went into Florida and put up 26 points and won. That's who's going to play. And then on top of that, to Cottrell's other point, are you telling me right now on a neutral field they're beating Georgia? If you really feel that badly about Florida State, you think they suck that bad. So you think they're better than Georgia? You think they're better than Ohio State? You think they're better than Oregon? So, well, like, why that was never explained. Like, why? Because nobody on that panel had the balls to ask them.
Look, I'm gonna tell you this right now. Plain and simple, the dude, I forgot his name, that was explaining why they put teams where they were. I completely agree. When every time he spoke, I was like, dude, you're just hurting. You're just hurting your choices, every word you say. And then I read that report about the spokesman. I forget his name, so my bad on this.
Boo Corrigan.
Yeah, he's related to some dude at ESPN, some vice president at ESPN that's also hosts the SEC games as well. So there was some reports about collusion, and like that was part of the aspect of the choice being made as well. So that was an interesting thing to kind of deep dive into and go down that rabbit hole. But I mean, ultimately, we are stuck with what we got. Unfortunately, they are not going to change it. I loved the idea of an emergency 6-team playoff with Michigan and Washington getting a bye. That would be perfect. If they would have came out with that, everyone in the country would be happy. But it's not going to happen until next year. And so we got where we got. And honestly, I'm pumped for it because ultimately the NCAA is a business, and these matchups are going to be the highest rated games that they could have put on the field for this season. So that's why I think I really have no problem with it as a consumer and as someone watching the game. But Bama versus Michigan, Washington versus Texas, I'm for it.
I think that's a different argument, though. Like, I don't think no one is arguing that these games won't be entertaining. Like, I don't think anyone that watches college football is mad necessarily that we get to see Quinn against Michael Penix, and then we get to see Michigan play this Alabama team. Like, I mean, if you're a Michigan fan, you might be mad that you have to face Alabama when you could have had Texas or Florida State, but like as a just non-biased and not Alabama. And I understand like why you would say that too, but just like in general though, like no one's mad about the games that we have. It's just about, for me at least, it's about the consistency and what playing field are we going off of? Like, what could Florida State have done outside of, I mean, they went undefeated. They won their conference championship game. Like, you want to talk about their schedule and what their records were. We talk about it all the time. Like, you can only play who is in front of you. This is the same argument that you were giving us, Alex, with Oregon and what their schedule looked like and why they were rated so high, when in reality, you know, they hadn't beaten any team that's here right now outside of Oregon State in the top 25. So like my biggest, I guess, issue with it is that the criteria changed this final week of the regular season. You knew Jordan Travis wasn't going to be there the week before when they played Florida, and you had Florida slotted as a number 4 team. I just don't understand how they can win their conference championship game and then go down. If you thought they were one of the 4 best teams in the country before that, and you had Georgia at number 1, and you're telling me still now they're better than Georgia still, I don't know how you don't have them in the top 4. That's just my biggest gripe with it.
So I mean, for the collusion stuff, Alex, this isn't a hard case. Like, I'll connect the dots for you. He's related to Tim Corrigan, who is the VP of marketing and something else for ESPN. But we talked about this on Wednesday. The ESPN's contract with the SEC starts on January 1, 2024. What day is the Rose Bowl, Alex?
I'm guessing the same date.
Correct. Guess what channel the Rose Bowl is shown on every single year?
Ooh, I got this one. Is it ESPN?
No, it's ABC.
ABC.
Who is owned by who?
An affiliate.
Correct. No, it's not an
ESPN.
affiliate. It's owned by ESPN. It's owned by Disney. It's all owned by the same
right.
people. Not a shock there at all. So those dots are not hard to connect whatsoever. There is the stuff that leaked out about the voting. This was the question that I want to answer, and he didn't answer it. Booger McFarland flat out answered him in a follow-up interview. So Florida State would have went out and put 42 on Louisville. What would you guys have done? No answer. And I'll go back to the same thing that I asked Gene on Wednesday. If the roles were reversed, would they have had the balls to take Alabama out of this, Alex? If Jalen Milroe got hurt 2 weeks ago and they still go beat Georgia somehow, but look awful doing it, would they have reversed it for Florida State? Would they've sat up there and been like, Alabama doesn't have their starting quarterback. We don't think they're gonna, we don't think they're gonna play well. We're taking them out.
Absolutely not.
Agreed. It is, just call it for what it is. If they would have had the balls to come out and say all this, I would have been a lot less offended by it. But it doesn't make they knew what they did was wrong. They don't have a good explanation for what they were doing it other than money. And that sucks.
And I want people to realize too, even if Alabama goes off and wins national championship, which I think they have a great shot to do. I think they can compete. Obviously, I think they can compete with, the 3 other teams in the playoffs. Even if Alabama goes and wins the national championship, that doesn't justify what the committee did. Yes, they are, talent-wise, top 4 team in the country. They won that championship. They're the best team in the country. 100% understand that argument, but that doesn't justify what the committee did here, because every other year for the last 9 years that we've had this playoff, it's been the 4 most deserving teams. We've never had an argument about a team that's sitting at number 7 or number 6 or even 5 and saying oh, they're the better team. We know they're better, but they should make it in the playoff over this team that was 12-1 and won their conference championship game. We've never ever had this discussion, but because an SEC team is involved and they were on the outside looking in here, we're finally talking about it 10 years later.
Yeah, because this is the year instead of being objective, they decide to be subjective, which is not in their purview anywhere. It is based upon the evidence put in front of you, the way they rank teams, the criteria, checking boxes off. You're supposed to use that to put the best 4 teams in the playoff. They didn't do that. They got their heads involved and they were like, oh, well, I don't think blah, blah, blah. I don't think. That's not what their job was. Their job is based off dead, set in stone criteria to rank these teams based upon the resumes, what they did, losses, head-to-head, all that crap. Mike Greenberg got it right. They turned into figure skating. They said this team's prettier than this one because that team's missing their prettiest player, and we're not putting them in. That is not their job. That is not their job. That is not what they were supposed to do. And I don't want to hear about the viewership or blah, blah, blah. Don't make it sound like nobody's going to turn in and watch the Rose Bowl if Michigan's playing Florida State. That's crap. That's a joke. Alabama doesn't view on TV as well as people think they do because the majority of the country hate Alabama.
Truth.
Number 1 ranked TV college football playoff game watched the last 3 years. Guess what it is? It's Michigan, Ohio State, and it's by over 10 million viewers every single year. Michigan draws. Michigan in the Rose Bowl is going to draw. It doesn't matter who you put across the sideline from them. They don't need to have Alabama there. That's a joke. It's another BS excuse that has no weight to any kind of factual evidence. Alabama versus Auburn this year drew 6 million people because nobody cares. Everybody hates Alabama except for Alabama fans. And you could say that about Michigan or Ohio State or whatever, but it's not true. There's a lot of people in the Big Ten, obviously, if you're a Michigan fan, you hate Ohio State. That's fine. There's a lot of casual people all over the country that grew up no matter, for whatever reason, if their parents liked Ohio State or their parents like Michigan or Penn State or vice versa. They have a base all over the country. Alabama doesn't. Alabama's like Notre Dame. You either love them or you hate them. They don't have casual fans. They don't. They have diehard fans, and their fan base is incredible. I'm not saying that, but to use the argument nobody's going to watch the Rose Bowl if Michigan it's versus Florida State is a joke. You sound like an idiot. Just don't say that. It's just factually inaccurate. I hope Michigan wins. I hope Michigan wins, obviously, for my own sake. There is nothing more for me that wants Michigan to show up and somehow blow Alabama out. I know that's not going to happen. But if they do, dude, if I'm Boo Corrigan and all them, I'm turning all my emails off. I'm turning any social media like the amount of egg that is going to be on your face that if Michigan goes and beats Alabama by 20 points is going to be incredible. And they should all just absolutely just be ashamed of themselves. And I'll leave it at that. What they did was ridiculous. And they screwed those kids for no reason other than money and greed.
I mean, look, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. This is the last thing I want to say about it. The committee, honestly, when they're looking at these games, and the reason I think that one of the reasons they left them out is when you look at their 2 games without Jordan Travis, and I've said this earlier, I'm just going to reiterate, versus their season before with Jordan Travis, they looked like 2 different teams. The points per game was dropped to 50% of what they were scoring with him. So they were able to, beat Florida, and they were able to beat Louisville. Defensively, they looked fantastic, but offensively, they just do not look like the same team. I think that's ultimately what it is they thought to themselves, if this was the offense the whole season, what would they do right now? And they would not be undefeated. And I think that ultimately is what played the biggest role for them. And again, that's my opinion, Bill. You're very opinionated about this subject, and you're knowledgeable, and you know what you're talking about, and you've seen these college football playoffs play out. And I honestly, like I said, I'm happy with where we're at. I'm excited. I hope Florida State does play Georgia. I hope Florida State comes out and whips Georgia's ass. And then we have an even bigger discussion of how much they messed up. But until that happens,
nah, I just want to know. I'm definitely team boycott. I don't know about show up to the stadium and just not play. Like, I think that would cause some big issues there.
That's why it has to be done that way, because if they announce before they're not going to play, ESPN will just flip-flop a game from somewhere else and they won't lose. ESPN has to lose here. That is what has to happen. I need those guys to come out, full uniform, the smoke, introductions, everything, sit on the sideline, do the national anthem, and then when they do captains, be like, we're out, we're done. We're not playing.
That would be.
They're just going to replay Jordan Travis breaking his leg over on repeat the entire time.
I hope they sit on the sidelines and play Candyland with each other, play dominoes, and just make those commentators sit there for 3 hours and try to fill time. And then just have ESPN's phones are going to be ringing off the hook from Allstate and everybody else who pays a gazillion dollars for advertising. Be like, yo, we want our money back. Like, that is what I want to happen.
That would be absolutely incredible. I'm not gonna lie to you. That would win over so many recruits. Like, knowing that, hey, you
would lose the fan base.
No,
the fan base that traveled there, that paid the money.
No.
That paid the money to go.
They would be pissed. Don't get me wrong, Alex. Like, if I pay, a ton of money,
if I paid that much money,
like, I definitely would be mad that.
Where's that game at? What bowl are they even in?
That's a good question. Have it up right.
They're probably in Florida.
That wouldn't be so bad if they were in Florida. They're playing. They're playing the Orange Bowl. They're playing the Orange Bowl.
That's in Miami. They're in Florida.
Yeah.
It's on the opposite side of the state. Right?
It ain't gonna be. It's not like they traveled to California and then we're like, we're not playing. Like,
I would be bad for sure if I spent, because I know those tickets won't be cheap. Like, looks like the cheapest ticket to get into that game right now is $94. If you spend a ton of money on a good seat, like, I would definitely I'd be a little mad about it. But at least as a fan, though, I'd 100% understand. I'd be like, you know what? Good for them. And to be honest, if the game doesn't get played, I feel like those fans would get their money back. Like, because that's probably a lawsuit waiting to happen as well.
That's fine. That ain't coming out of Florida State's pocket.
No, that's a fact. That's a fact.
It would be even better if the Florida State fans walked out with the Florida State
That'd
team.
be even better.
They all walked out.
That'd be even better. Then you got to watch half an empty stadium. That's even better. Listen, I'm here for the chaos. Listen, if Florida State does it and they do it this way, Florida State will absolutely become my number 2 team. They will.
For sure.
They will bump Penn State. They will bump Penn State from my rankings. And Justin, no, I'm not going, because you want to know why? Just to even hammer in the viewings thing more. Guess Cottrell just said the cheapest ticket for that game is $94. That's for Florida State, Georgia. The cheapest ticket for the Rose Bowl right now, because I looked at it because I was contemplating going because I want to go. It's on my bucket list to watch them play in that stadium. The cheapest ticket to get in the Rose Bowl right now is $698. So don't tell me people don't care about the Rose Bowl.
It's also California. Everything's expensive there.
No, it's just that and the demand.
The Rose Bowl is when you have the Big Ten prestige and Michigan, Ohio State, like, it's. Even the Pac-12. Like, when the Pac-12 is on, like, those games are must.
Listen, we were talking about it a couple weeks ago. We were praying we were going to get either Michigan, Oregon, or Michigan, Washington in the Rose Bowl, because for the final year that would have been fantastic.
Yep,
that ended up having being Big Ten versus Pac-12 like it's supposed to be. That would have been incredible. Like, for it to go out that way. I think what's funny is
that if Oregon had beaten Washington, I firmly think that Oregon would have been the 4 team, and I think we might have seen that matchup. if everything else played out the same way, I think Oregon would have been that 14.
I mean, you wouldn't have liked how that worked out, but yeah.
I wouldn't. I would have loved how that would have worked out.
Oh, you take that big L
Bo
in Rose
Nix,
Bowl.
Michigan, let's go. I mean, that's fine. Being there is just an honor.
Bo Nix doesn't like big games, so.
One bad game. Okay. You know what? We better be getting into Heisman talk today because I got some.
You know what?
But
let's do it.
We got lots of time, Joe.
You want to do Heisman now? We can do Heisman now.
I got some awards. We can do Heisman next. Hey.
Let's go over. Let's actually this. I didn't know we were going to do this. Let's go over this.
Either did I.
This is a nice. Who put this graphic together?
Fox
Sports.
Well, who clipped it?
Oh, Cottrell.
Oh, all right. Let's go over some of the.
I knew we were going over Heisman, and this happened last night, so I just figured we blend them together.
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
Dude, I watched the replay of the award show last night. It was absolutely abysmal. They just showed the 4 commentators, and they just, here's the winner.
Yeah,
like there's no display, there's no ceremony, there's no like. It was like, what is this?
It was very COVID-esque, not gonna lie. Like I don't know why they were in studio and then just videoed in all the winners. It was
it felt 2020 for sure.
Yeah.
But no, I'm liking this list. I mean, is there anything that you guys see on here that you guys don't agree with? I mean, I see a couple that I do that jump off the bat. But what do you guys got?
I don't know anything. I put that thing in our group chat late last night. The fact that Marvin Harrison only won by 1 vote, I think, is surprising to me. I hate.
It's not to me.
Not to me either.
All right. I mean, I thought it was to me. Like, listen, I've been on. I picked him to win the Heisman this year. Unfortunately, he got hurt, and had a couple down games. I am firmly, and I will stand behind what I said, and this includes Caleb Williams. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best player in this draft this year. If I had the number 1 pick and I had a quarterback, the only person I would pick would be Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's a generational talent. I think he's the best player in college football, and I don't think it's close.
My question is this though: is this award about who's the best player in college football, like ability, or is it who had the best season?
No,
for me,
I understand what you're saying. I'm saying because I view him that way. Right. I understand Major shot a great year. I still think Harrison Jr. is a way better receiver. I think he's gonna be a better pro too.
For me, I think that it's almost like they wanted to make up for their mistake from last year. And I said it when they announced it, because Alex, I believe that you're probably in agreement with me. Malik Neighbors probably should have won this award. Just because numbers wise, he had better numbers. Like I got to give credit where credit is due. His numbers were better. But if I'm being honest, like as an Ohio State fan, obviously I'm happy that Marvin won the award. But he was definitely like I'd say more valuable to the Ohio State offense. But with that said, Neighbors had the better numbers. But last year, I thought it was clear cut that Marvin Harrison Jr. should have won the Biletnikoff. And they gave it to Jalen Hyatt. So I almost feel like this was just that committee saying, hey, we screwed it up last year. You should have one of these awards. It's pretty close this year. So we'll give you the nod since we didn't give it to you last year.
This is not baseball, right? You don't get a makeup call. Okay, kids put in entire years worth of work for this award. Not that they're playing for this award.
What was that? What was that? What did you just say?
I said this is not baseball. You don't get a makeup call.
What'd you say after that?
Oh, I said, these kids work all year long.
like Florida State. See, Cottrell knew I was going already. Like, yeah. All right, proceed. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, just like Alabama, Texas, Washington, and Michigan. You know what I mean? Like they also put in work.
None of those teams lost.
My gosh, we're still on this. All right,
it's never gonna die. It's never gonna die.
I'm gonna address Justin's comment. He did ask, how did Blake Corum not win a running back of the year? And the point of the matter is well, there is that. He had 30 less carries this season than last season. He had 400 less yards gained this year, and he averaged 1.2 yards per carry less than last year. So his stats have gone down, not to his inability, but because of his team's steamrolling their teams, he wasn't able to put up those stats that some of the other running backs were. Ollie Gordon, he had over 1,600 rushing yards. I mean, he was head and shoulders, I think, the best running back this season. So that makes sense to me. The one that really throws me off is the Michael Penix Jr. winning the Maxwell Award.
So that's my question. What is the difference between the Maxwell and the Walter Camp? They can't both be Player of the Year.
One of them is quarterback of the year. I think Maxwell is
quarterback is Davey O'Brien.
Davey O'Brien. There is a difference.
That's Davey O'Brien Award.
There's a difference between the two. I just don't know what they are.
I think it's who votes on them, to be honest.
That could be it. That could make sense.
Well, I don't see how Michael Penix Jr. wins either of those awards. Realistically, I mean, Jane Daniels, Bo Nix are way better athletes, quarterbacks.
Michael Penix didn't lose any football games.
He worked hard. Showed up in the
worked hard all year long.
In the big games.
Showed up in the big games.
You know what? So here's the thing. I feel like for like the Heisman, like Bo Nix was the favorite going into the Oregon-Washington game for the Heisman. Yes. He then got punished for making the conference championship game, getting an extra game over Jaden Daniels. And now he's being punished.
No, he's not being punished for that. He got punished. He got punished for not showing up. That's why he got punished.
He was the favorite, played a game that Jaden Daniels got to sit on his ass at home to watch.
But let's be honest, though. We should have, if Jaden Daniels played, Jaden Daniels could have played and he could have had 2 completions for, out of 30 attempts. Like, Jaden Daniels is your Heisman Trophy winner this year. We all agree there. Like, I get it.
No,
you know,
we don't.
Come on, Alex. We did the show. We can go run the tape back.
I know.
We all agree that
I picked Michael Penix at the beginning of the year.
I know.
I do.
I know. But we all know that Jaden Daniels is the Heisman Trophy winner. Bo Nix didn't get punished for playing that extra game. If anything, it gave him an extra opportunity to give him a solid argument to be ahead of Jaden Daniels. So neither one of these guys, Michael Penix Jr. won that game, and he didn't get the boost in the Heisman rankings. Neither one of these guys did what they had to do against that defense. Jaden Daniels' numbers are still better than both of those guys, and they had an extra game. So I'm not hearing that argument that he got punished for an extra game, when in reality he had an extra game to put his numbers up and get statistically ahead in Jaden Daniels, and that didn't happen. And that goes for Michael Penix Jr. as well.
All right, here's the difference.
Okay.
Maxwell is voted on by sports writers and NCAA head coaches. The Walter Camp is just NCAA head coaches and athletic directors.
Dang, I was right. Let's go.
You're right. There you go.
Okay. But other than that, I mean, do you guys see any other awards on there? I see one more that I think could have gone to somebody else, but everything else, do you guys pretty much agree with?
I mean, Mike Norvell should have won Coach of the Year. You know, getting 2 huge wins at the end of the year with third-string quarterback should go for something. But you know,
I disagree with you there.
I'm trolling. I'm fine with.
I was gonna say I was on the Kalen DeBoer bandwagon here. Was not expecting this Washington team to be this good this year. So I was fine with their. I'll say the one that I guess, well, 2 really that surprised me. Trey Taylor winning Best DB is one that I was not expecting, and then
that's true.
The Buckus Award, Peyton Wilson is very deserving of that award, but everybody in that category was great, and I legit would not have been surprised if anybody would have took home the Buckus Award.
That was a crowded category this year. I think there's a lot of linebackers you could have made that argument for. Graham Nicholson.
So the only other one that I don't agree with was the assistant. Well, actually, it's not that I don't agree with it, because he definitely is deserving. Phil Parker with Assistant Coach of the Year. I just think Will Stein at Oregon, obviously I am partial to this, but Will Stein, offensive coordinator for Oregon, I think should have been Assistant Coach of the Year. For that, he had the top 5 scoring offense in the country.
Alex,
his second year at Oregon.
Alex, what are we doing here?
Whatever, man.
What are we doing here?
What we're doing here?
You know who has the argument to win that goddamn award is Sharon Moore. That's who should have won the award, and I'm not even up here preaching for that. I'm even letting it go. And now you're giving me the OC because he had a
for working hard all year, man.
Yeah,
Will Stein deserves it. He put in the work.
Let's go,
Oregon put up 40 points against Colorado and USC like they were supposed to do, and they lost the game where they played 2 real opponents. You don't get
well,
Coach
technically
of the
it's
Year.
one real opponent twice, but
that's true. Very true.
Counts as 1 loss. They should be in the college football playoff. I'm just kidding. But no, the award show was super. You're right. I'm not kidding. But let's change subject real quick. The award show was super boring. I watched it last night on the replay at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I don't know.
After I was watching the Furman game last night.
I didn't even know.
The Furman Montana State.
That was a great game, Alex. That's
who ended up winning that game,
dude.
I fell asleep. It was 21-20. Who won?
Montana State won in overtime.
Yeah, it went to overtime because Furman had scored with like 13 seconds left. Sent it to overtime.
Yeah, it was a crazy finish.
That's awesome. Listen, those FCS
games. Furman had a fourth and. Go ahead, Bill.
Those FCS games get wild, man. We could actually do that next week because they're down to their Final Four, I think, now.
Semifinals is next week.
Yeah, so we'll talk about them next week. We'll give them some love, because we'll have like the first week of bowls, and then we could talk about them. We'll obviously have Heisman recap, which we're about to get into here in a second. That's later tonight.
What's next?
I mean, might as well do Heisman. We're here.
Hey,
this is a 2-horse race, in my opinion. I'm very clear with who I think the best player on this graphic is. I don't think it's close. But Bo was leading going into last week, and did the fundamental dropping of the ball. I think I think it's going to be Jaden Daniels now, because I think Penix's second half of the season he fell off a little bit. I know they're undefeated, and I know that matters. So I will not be surprised at all if Michael Penix Jr. wins this award tonight. I think at this point you have to give it to Jaden Daniels. I think his numbers are just they're video game numbers at this point. I know LSU stinks, and again, I don't disagree with that argument. And there's a 3-loss team, and I'm fine with that as well. I am one person that's always said I don't think this is pretty much the MVP of college football. I don't think it should be tied directly to how your team does. I don't. It's an individual award. It's not a team award, but that is the precedence that they've set. So I think that could go against Jaden Daniels tonight. I do. I think what hurts Michael Penix Jr. also is I think he's going to split votes with Bo Nix from a lot of the people out west. I think it's going to be Jaden Daniels. I won't be surprised if Penix wins because they are undefeated, and he will get boost for that. But I think they're the only 2 logical winners of this award. You guys, I'm sure Alex will disagree, but I don't know where Cottrell will come in on this, but that's where I'm at.
Well, let's just say this. My preseason list we all made preseason lists with our 5 top Heisman Trophy candidates. I'm pretty sure my list, the only person on that was invited to New York that I had on my list that isn't here is Caleb Williams. So I mean, I'm pretty sure that we all had most of these guys on our list.
No, Alex, this is your list.
Yeah, minus Caleb Williams.
Yep.
So I mean, Bill is shaking his head. I know my stuff, man.
I had Marvin number 1 of the year. I was the only one. I thought for sure me and Cottrell were going to match, and he didn't.
I'm checking for some breaking news right now. It looks like Justin just posted that Dylan Gabriel is coming to Oregon officially.
Like 3 days ago.
But he's actually.
It wasn't. He just visited today.
It was. I mean, they had the crystal ball, but yeah, Dylan Gabriel tweeted that he's going to Oregon.
That's a big pickup for you guys.
Honestly, it's a great pickup. Losing Bo, going to Dylan Gabriel, with his arm talent, I think they're going to push the ball downfield a little more next year now. With Dylan Gabriel has a little bit more downfield accuracy than Bo Nix, in my opinion. Control, don't make that face. Bo Nix has been doing a lot of dump downs this year, and I think Dylan Gabriel is going to
has a better arm than
upscale our offense next year. What was that?
I said I think Bo Nix has a better arm than Dylan Gabriel.
That's fact.
Well, we're gonna find. Well, no, I think that Dylan Gabriel has better touch downfield as far as accuracy downfield, and that's one of the reasons why offense was a lot of dumps, short passes, run after catch type offense. But that's a great pickup. I'm excited to see where else goes this weekend. But we'll get into portal here in a little bit. These 4 are deserving. Because I had them all 4 on my list at the beginning of the year. I've been very high on Jaden Daniels a few weeks ago, even when they were 3 losses in, and y'all were saying they're a 3-loss team. He's not even going to get invited to New York.
Nobody said that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
Let's reroll.
Remember that.
Nobody said he wasn't going to get invited. I'm not disagreeing with you. I don't think it should matter that much, but it does. It's been proven in the past that it matters, and I'm with you. I don't think it should.
And I was on the side of, I said that there's been other teams and other players that have won this award that were on 3-loss teams. I brought it up a few weeks ago with the Johnny Manziel argument, and I understand
That's
that
true. We did have that argument.
Johnny had more of like a circus behind him and more hype and things like that. But I mean, if you look at the numbers, like they're really close, being in the same ballpark. So I think for me, Jaden Daniels deserves to win this award. You look at the numbers. I mean, obviously Bo has the better completion percentage there, but 72% completion percentage is still nuts. 50 total touchdowns is nuts. Like, and if you watch this LSU team, if Jaden Daniels wasn't doing the things that he was doing, they probably would have lost 6 games this year. So I think it's Jaden Daniels, and I don't think it's particularly close. If LSU was sitting at 10-2 or 11-1, we're not even having a discussion about who should have won the Heisman this year. So if that's the case, and the only thing that we're splitting hairs with is win losses, I think is clear cut who your Heisman Trophy winner should be.
I agree.
All right.
I will say this: it's usually only 3 people. Sometimes it's 4. It depends on how the votes come in. It was close. I will say this: the fact that Harrison made it adds a little intrigue to this. Like, I think he got a lot, way more votes than I think a lot of people thought he was going to. I will be very curious to see where he is at the end of the night, because they do release it, after the show's over, the total tally. I would almost bet that he doesn't come in last place.
Yeah, he's going to be like, because he got invited, his votes are going to be very close to where I think Bo Nix is going to end up being third. I think Marvin will be last, but that does mean that their votes are going to be 3 and 4's votes are very close.
Agreed.
I think it's going to go Jaden, Bo, Michael, Marvin. I think Marvin was kind of invited just as like a, hey, you're fantastic. You deserve to be here.
That's not how it works, though.
You got to throw someone else in here. That's not
That's not how it works. It's a voting percentage thing. Like,
it is how it works.
That's how you get invited. Like, you have to have a certain number of votes and percentages to get invited. They don't just go off of, hey, you had a great season, come on to New York. They vote on it already.
Hey, come on to New York, guys.
Alex,
come on over.
Alex will have to regroup after this show.
Dude, I'm tired.
It's early. It's early in the morning over there for him.
It is. Listen, I give him credit. Dude gets up at 6:30 every morning, every Saturday, do this show. So I have all the love in the world for Alex for doing it, because I promise you, if I had to, there would have been shows I would have missed.
Not even on purpose either. They're just
would have slept.
Well, I'm here, boys, and I'm here for all the craziness. That's what I'm here for. I apply the nonsense.
All right,
that's what I'm here for.
This is chaos, and it's just going to get worse before it gets better. So, do we even have them on here? Oh, we do. All right, so Cottrell, this one just broke. It's good news for you and me. Chase Bissanis, number 1 offensive tackle in the portal, has narrowed down to 4. LSU, Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State. So we're in that.
Nice. I know I knew we'd be in on Chase, and then I think we're also in on LT Overton from A&M. So we're definitely looking to bolster the offensive line. So
yeah, so I know you guys are on him. I have a really good feeling we're gonna get Walter Nolan, which I'm excited about, from A&M. Cam Ward came out and said today that Ohio State's out. That is a little shocking to me, because when he said he was going there, I really thought that was I mean, I know you thought so too. I thought that was a very good match for him. I did not think they would let him get off campus without, that being a.
I don't think he ever got on campus. That was the thing.
Maybe eliminated before that. I thought Cam Ward to Ohio State was a very good fit. I was not, as a Michigan fan, I was not super happy about that marriage possibly happening. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen now. So,
and Justin, no, LT is not a left tackle. He plays on the defensive line.
Pretty much all the number 1 guys from that class from 2 years ago, they're all in the portal. Texas A&M lost all.
Here's my question for you.
What's up, Alex?
Since we mentioned Cam Ward, how much do you think Cam Ward's choice will affect Josh Kelly? Because that's someone I have on top of my board for Oregon at the wide receiver position from Washington State. Josh Kelly's in the transfer portal. Do you think he goes where Cam Ward goes? Or do you think they kind of go different destinations?
I mean, I think that's a great question. That could be a big reason why Cam Ward said Ohio State's probably, not in that discussion, because Josh Kelly, I think he's a great talent for sure, but realistically, I don't know if he steps in and he's that guy at Ohio State. So I think that's a great question, and I think you probably will see those guys team up, if it's the right opportunity. Now, if Cam Ward gets an opportunity, though, let's say, Georgia's like, hey, Carson Beck was great, but Cam, you come here, you are starting quarterback next year. Yeah, I mean, there's certain opportunities you just can't pass up. So Cam Ward obviously is going to have a pick of the litter with him being a quarterback and that being obviously the most important position. But I do think those guys are going to try and team up somewhere and, keep running back per se.
It would be really nice to see, as much as I hate USC, with, Jerry Rice's son going to the draft and a couple of people transferring from USC. It'd be interesting to see Cam Ward in that kind of offense with Josh Kelly and USC, kind of replacing the big name wide receiver with a big name, and also with a big name quarterback, especially for that bridge year, just while they get some new guys in and trained up in the system. I think Cam Ward and Josh Kelly would do wonders in USC next year if that's in the cards and on their board of teams to look.
It's very interesting that you say USC, because they are one of the teams that's going to be in a really weird situation next year. Because Malachi Nelson he's a true freshman this year, but he's a 5-star kid, one of the Gatorade player of the year. Like, he's a kid that is talented enough to probably step in and start as a redshirt freshman next year. But it'll be interesting to see if they go get that vet guy and, really sit him there. And then if that's the case, does he hit the portal because he doesn't want to be a backup quarterback? Like, a lot of these schools are in very tough situations.
So here are Cam Ward's final four as of this morning from Blue Bloods, and actually on 3 as well. They both agree. Florida State, USC, Auburn, Miami. Auburn to me out of them.
People gotta stop looking at Miami.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell Mario Cristobal is selling people. I mean,
got money.
Never mind. No, I don't know. I know what he's selling people. They come on a visit. They're like, this is where you're going to be living at for the next year. You're going to have this money. You can go down to South Beach. We get to play at the Hard Rock Stadium. Look at the jerseys. Come on. Come to Miami.
It's the U, baby.
Like, you don't even have to sell them.
They're living off of their past success.
You don't even have to sell them at that point.
True.
So let's go down some of these other big names here, because some of these guys we know where they're going. Riley Leonard, I think, is it's either close or almost definite. He's going to Notre Dame.
It is not.
But he opened up his recruiting and he said, "Do not contact." Pretty much like he already made his decision. So
it's not so much that it's some of these guys don't want, like, these guys just want to control where they go and reach out to teams that they're interested. They don't want 30 head coaches calling them.
I will say this
with
Riley Leonard. Personally, I don't want Riley Leonard to come to Ohio State, but he's not the right. He's had discussions with Ohio State as well. Like, that's really when I knew Cam Ward wasn't going to be coming here, because I'm like, if Cam Ward's your number one target, why are you talking to Riley Leonard?
Right.
But Riley Leonard, apparently Ohio State is in play there, and I'm hoping he goes to Notre Dame. I'll say that.
I think it's a weird.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Riley Leonard's quarterback style either.
I don't mind his style. I just think he has to go to a certain type of team. I don't know if he's right for Notre Dame.
Notre Dame makes sense though. Like, that's the kind of quarterback, like a guy that is gonna protect the ball and be gutsy and make the big play when he needs to. But you don't need him to go out there and throw for 5,000 yards.
No, but you need him to go out and throw for like 3,800, and that is they thought they were gonna get that with Sam Hartman this year, and they still didn't have their wide receivers and. That kind of became a mess down the stretch, and that's Notre Dame's problem. They have no passing attack right now. They can run the ball. They always have great offensive linemen. They have no passing game. I don't know if he's the guy that you want to go in there throwing the ball 30, 35 times a game. So that's what I feel like they need. I think he's a Notre Dame type kid for sure. I agree with you on that, Cottrell. I just don't know skill set wise that's the best marriage in my opinion. Cam Ward, we already talked about. Kyle McCord is Nebraska. That's a done deal, I believe.
Not officially, but that's where everybody
yeah,
thinks he's going.
Because then a lot of people think Julian Fleming's going to go with him. Walter Nolan, we touched on a little bit. I think we're going to get Walter Nolan. He was down between us and Texas A&M last time, and everybody that was recruiting him from Michigan is still there. I have a good feeling about Walter Nolan. I think we get him.
Walter Nolan is that's going to be a fun name because all three of our teams are in that race right now.
DJU, I think is some people are saying Florida State. He's another guy that's been linked to Miami.
I would love to see him go to Florida State. Like, see him play.
I actually thought he was going to end up at Oregon initially when he entered the portal due to the fact that he's already in the state. His brother plays for the University of Oregon. I actually thought DJU would be a top candidate to come to the University of Oregon. Not excited about that prospect, but I was expecting that to be a little to go further into the month of December with that being a discussion, and it looks like that's not even on the table anymore.
Dylan Gabriel, was official now to Oregon. He's a Duck.
Signed to Oregon.
Go
Ducks.
Will Howard's an interesting name. I don't know. His stuff's been kind of quiet. I haven't heard a ton about him.
Yeah.
Well, who do we know who his top schools are right now, or that really hasn't even mentioned at all for him either?
Personally, I haven't.
I thought I saw something about him for Ohio State too.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State's been in the quarterback race. Like Dante Moore has been another name. Like Ohio State's really been, I feel like, linked with pretty much every quarterback that hit the portal, just because of, obviously you're going to have an opening at that starting position. So I think they've been trying to keep their options very open. I think the one thing that might be interesting with Ohio State is that I think there's a possibility that they miss on every quarterback in the portal, and they just roll with either somebody that they have now, or bring in Air will be on campus and in January. Maybe he competes for the starting spot next year too.
There we go. And so we talked about Julian Fleming. His recruitment might determine on where Kyle McCord goes. You guys were saying, correct?
I don't think it's going to necessarily determine on that. Like, I don't think they have that connection, but I think his top target right now is also Nebraska. Nebraska's been recruiting Julian Fleming very hard, and for Julian Fleming, I mean, it would make sense to go to a school like that. You're already familiar with the Big Ten, and Julian Fleming's a guy who was a 5-star kid coming out of high school. He has the frame to be an NFL receiver. He just really needs opportunity. And at Ohio State,
stay healthy.
He can't stay healthy, and he's been consistently the number 3 or number 4 option. So him going somewhere like Nebraska would make sense.
He's a very good football player.
So I had read earlier in the week that Kyle McCord didn't want to stay in the Big Ten because he didn't want to play Big Ten competition at another school, and he didn't want to risk playing Ohio State. Have you guys seen that report also, or do you think that he just kind of threw that to the wind with Nebraska's offer?
I don't believe that.
I haven't seen that report, but I think it's on 3. They pretty much put him as like 100% match to go to Nebraska. Now, obviously, that's not official, and Kyle McCord could change his mind at any point. But usually with the crystal balls, like, they're usually pretty spot on. So that's just why I say that I think that's where he's going.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Trevor Etienne. I think with the exodus, of Cottrell's team, I think there's at least a decent to not good shot that he might end up a Buckeye. I mean, I think he'll have a lot of suitors. I mean, he's pretty much been that team's offense for the last 2 years. More of a physical running back than people think. I think a lot of our running back room is full, and especially with the sounds that Donovan might actually come back next year. I mean, I know we won't be in on him. I won't be surprised at all if Etienne lines up as a Buckeye.
Alex, who do you want in the portal?
So there's a couple people that I really want in the portal. Obviously, we got Dylan Gabriel. I've been kind of high on him since Cottrell broke the news last week about him possibly having a visit and getting offered by Oregon. I've been excited for that since then. I didn't really think about it until he mentioned it, so that was a really nice signing. But there's a couple players I'm really looking at, and that's going to be to improve our offensive weapons, losing Troy Franklin. I'm looking at Josh Kelly, which, again, I think where Cam Ward goes kind of may reflect that. If they are also a wide receiver needy team, I think he'll go there. But the other two players I'm looking at are Deion Burks from Purdue, 629 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns. Great season. Purdue, not a great passing attack, and he's still able to put up some great numbers. And then right down I-5, Oregon State's tight end Jack Velling entered the transfer portal a couple days ago. We are losing Ferguson this year, hopefully to the NFL. And Jack Velling ended up turning in some great numbers last year as tight end for Oregon State, just under 500 yards and 8 touchdowns. We definitely need a red zone guy like that at the tight end position. I think Jack Velling is going to ultimately fill that position. The other guy I'm excited about who hasn't really gotten a lot of talk is Nyland Green, cornerback from Georgia, former 5-star from 2021. He was a Dan Lanning recruit to Georgia, and I think that past relationship may bring another top talented cornerback back to the University of Oregon in Nyland Green. And then the player I'm most excited to see where they go, and I don't think Oregon is on the list, but I am excited to see where Juice Wells, he is on the list on their far right side, upper right. I am excited to see where Juice Wells from South Carolina goes. 928 yards receiving on 68 catches. That dude is a talent and a wide receiver, and seeing where he ends up, that he can be a game changer for a lot of teams out there. What about you guys?
For me, Juice Wells, that's a great. You name like the name like Juice. Obviously, it's not his real name, but name like Juice Wells, you got to be a special player to don that as your name. So he's 100% great talent. For me, I think it's really the quarterback shuffle. Like specifically, I guess I'd go with Dante Moore because that's a guy who played as a true freshman. He was a 5-star kid, like one of the top recruits in the country. If he goes,
you'll be seeing a lot of them.
It like wherever he goes, like he's going to change a program in more ways than one because he's going to play this year, obviously. But if he goes there, he's not going to be draft eligible to come out. So he's going to be your starter for the next 2 years. And that may change the direction of some recruits. So it's going to be very interesting to see how teams navigate with Dante Moore. Shalley, it sounds like you're in on the Dante Moore sweepstakes. You want him to don the maize and blue.
He was on campus 2 days ago, and a lot of people thought it was going to be between them and Oregon's out now. So
I mean, it definitely makes sense there. And
he's a Michigan kid. So
with the way you got like how your recruiting is set up, like if you guys get Bryce Underwood, he's the 2025, so it kind of works out perfect where Dante could be there for the next 2 years. Bryce comes in, true freshman, probably won't play as a true freshman, but your timeline matches up like that. For us, a little bit of a different boat, I guess, because Aaron Nolan's coming in. He's a highly recruited 4-star kid. And so it's just interesting to see how these quarterbacks are going to play out, especially Dante Moore is the interesting one because he has 2 years of eligibility as opposed to these other guys who you're assuming are going to be your guy for just this 1 year.
Complication for us
really quick
becomes Jaden Davis. So I don't know what happens if we sign Dante Moore. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Jaden opens his recruiting back up because a lot of that will depend on Blair. Obviously, if Blair ends up committing to Michigan, then Jaden kind of becomes the guy without a chair. I don't know where he would ever fit in play wise. So it'll be interesting. I know they want him. They wanted him before. We'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens with JJ as well. So, I mean, it's, there's a lot of rumors coming out right now with a lot of people that people thought they were definitely going to the draft. They might not be. So it'd be very interesting to see what happens.
And then addressing a couple comments here. Damian, Trevor Etienne is the brother of Travis Etienne, who is in the NFL. Trevor is his younger brother. That's why he's on the list. And Justin, yes, Tyler Shuck is still playing college football, even though he signed with Oregon in 2018. It's almost 2024. He's about to go into his 6th year of eligibility. And if I'm not mistaken, he already signed with Louisville.
He did. That is correct.
Earlier in the week. So we're going to see him there next year. Hey, third stop's the charm, I guess.
Well,
that's the thing
with those guys, though. It is crazy that he has been in the NCAA that long, but you got to think he had a true redshirt year, and then he had another COVID year. So that's how these guys, like, once we get to 2025, those COVID guys, like, we should be back to regularly scheduled programming.
Yeah. Some of these other guys too, like Brock Vandergraaf is in Kentucky. He committed there. Max Johnson went what? North Carolina.
North Carolina. Yep.
Will Rogers is still out there. Listen, we'll talk about this next couple of weeks because obviously as other bowl games end up finishing, there's going to be more guys hit the portal, and obviously some of these guys are going to end up committing to new homes as well. So it'll be be more of a discussion. So we will. This will be something that will be ongoing for the next few weeks for sure.
And I gotta give your favorite Mud Hen some love here. DeQuan Finn hitting the portal. See if he goes P5.
Mud Hens.
I think he's got a shot. I mean, I think it's kind of a I'm trying to think where he could go. I mean,
who are you guys referring to right now?
DeQuan Finn, Toledo quarterback, Toledo Mud Hens.
Honestly, the one I'm excited to see is where Grayson McCall goes. A lot of people are saying he may go to UCF, but to me, it's like I feel like you're going from the same level caliber to the same level caliber team. Like if you're going to transfer for your final year, I think you kind of want to do a Sam Hartman and go to like a Notre Dame, a higher notarized school where you can get more recognition for your ultimate NFL push. So the UCF move, that would seem a little bit questionable to me. Obviously, it's nothing official, but that's where the crystal ball has him going, and that just seems weird to me.
Although, have you seen UCF's campus?
True. They're on Florida. All those Florida campuses are nice.
Yeah.
That's how they get you. It's also the butt crack of America. But hey.
I mean, UCF's right in Orlando.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Great. Even worse.
So the only game that matters, as some people like to call it, Army Navy. America's game. It's they get their own weekend to themselves, deservingly so, in my opinion. I love that they put this game the week after the conference championship game, so it doesn't get lost. Everybody, and again, everybody watches this football game. I love this game. Not going to be the best highly skilled football per se. Never is, but the effort level and how much these guys care about this game is always incredible. These guys literally kill themselves on the field to try to win this game. Saw the uniforms last night. Army's rocking cool like tank looking stuff again, and then Navy's got like nuclear subs on their helmets this year, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I love that they started doing that 5 or 6 years ago. They started coming out with special edition uniforms and helmets for this game every year. It's just another, nice, really classic touch, for this game. First year it's been playing in Boston in like forever. This is at Gillette Stadium this year, up in Foxborough. It's usually either in Philadelphia or Baltimore. They moved it up there for 1 year for some stupid reason. But who you guys got? Why? Over under 28.5 is always important. This is usually a low scoring game, but it's a classic. It's a tradition. Everybody watches it. I'll be watching it later. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, this game is definitely going to be decided between the trenches. I mean, Army is averaging 209 rushing yards per game, and Navy is averaging just over 200. So we're going to see a lot of runs this game. That over/under kind of really spells the tale of what we're expecting today, with it being at, Justin said 28.5 it's the adjusted over/under right now. I mean, that's lower than Iowa, than any of Iowa's games this season, and that kind of tells you what to expect offensively and defensively. Ultimately, it's going to come down to, in my opinion, the best military school this year was Air Force, and Army was able to go in there and win 23-3 against that heavily running team. And I think Army is going to cover that 3-point spread today. I think the over/under is pretty accurate. I'm not going to choose between that number because I think it's probably going to be between 27 and 30 points. I think it's going to be pretty close to that number. But I do think Army, who has looked great recently, racking off 3 straight wins, including beating Air Force 23-3. I like the kind of headspace that they're coming into this game with, winning 3 in a row, while Navy lost to SMU 59-14 last week. They had to throw the ball last week a lot more than they typically do, only completing 9 of 20 passes for like 55 yards. Army's quarterback is, their passing game is a little more proven than Navy's. Not that that's saying too much, but I think that's going to kind of be the ultimate tell today is that Army's coming in hotter than Navy is, and Army's going to take care of business today.
Give me them midshipmen. I like Navy to win this football game. You know why I like Navy to win this football game? Because Army won it.
Tell me why.
Army won it last year. This is a game where, you really can throw everything out of the window in terms of what you've seen this season, what you've seen last season, how great they are, because at the end of the day, none of that matters when these two teams play each other. I will say, with Army and Navy, they are so similar, like across the board. You look at their quarterback play, their running backs, like where those numbers are at, defensively where they're at. They're pretty much the exact same team this year. I will say, I do think this would have been cool because both teams are at 5-6 right now. If you would have saved them a slot in a bowl game, like, hey, winner of this game, you're going to get that last spot in this bowl game. We'll put you guys out in January. We'll make sure that, you got plenty of time to rest and recoup and be ready for that. But I think that would have been a cool scenario, a little win in your end kind of thing there, because both teams would be at 6 games at that point. But just getting back to the game, though, I think this is going to be a game where the over-under is at 28.5, and that's probably right where it should be. It's going to be a lower scoring game. These teams are both want to be able to run the ball, but I just like Navy to run it a little bit better. And I got a little surprise, I guess. I think Navy scores a touchdown, and it's not on the ground. I think they get a receiving touchdown in the game. My man, Eli Heidenreich. He's the guy he's got 4 touchdown receptions on the year. I think he's going to get in the end zone, and Navy's going to win this one. I got like 14-10 Navy.
I was going to go 13-10 Navy. I will, I have a lot of friends that I grew up with that are on both sides of this. I don't know why. I always end up rooting for Navy. My uncle was in the Navy. So I will stick true to the midshipmen here. I also think the Navy SEALs are cool, so I'll go for that reason as well. I like their helmets better this year too. So per the norm, I'm going, and they share the colors, they've similar colors to Michigan. So lots of reasons to stay Navy here. So I will go Navy. I'll go 13-10 though. And I think it's another hard fought, just battle, man. I love the pageantry of this game. Whoever wins gets to sing their song last at the end of the game. It's a very emotional game. I will tell you, if you guys, I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to go. It is not an easy ticket to get because they give so many tickets away, obviously to families, and then obviously, the cadets and the midshipmen on either side. But if you ever have the chance to attend one, do not pass it up. It is a very special experience. These two teams get a lot of attention for obvious reasons, and it's very deserving. It's always on the East Coast, unfortunately. So, like I said, it's a little easier for me because it's in Philly every other year. But it's something that should be on everybody's bucket list. If you're a college fan, you should absolutely go to this game. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of it's different, and when it's there, like it feels different, and it should feel different because it is different. But it'll be a good game today. So it 3:30. Can't get here soon enough, and we'll see what happens. Get back to the old school wing tee. We're gonna see it, triple option. You're gonna see it all day.
It's fun to watch. Reminds me of Oregon with Chip Kelly.
Right now, the lowest ticket to get into this game is sitting at $228.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and to put that in perspective, I'm assuming it's probably somewhere really high. And Gillette is also an enormous stadium. I've been there before for a concert. Holds close to 80,000 people. So it is not an easy ticket to get. And in Boston, I hate to say it, Boston doesn't really have the ties to this game that I think Baltimore or Philly do. So when it's here, it's very hard to get tickets, and they're not cheap.
And to put in perspective, we talked about Florida State versus Georgia earlier. Cheapest ticket to get into that game was like $96, $98, something like that. So I mean, just kind of shows you how special the game is.
It absolutely is. So I just saw something really fun. We can finish up the show with this. They released the Heisman voting for number 5 through 10 before the ceremony tonight, obviously. 10 was J.J. McCarthy. 9 was Blake Corum. 8 was Cody Schrader from Mizzou. So he got some love. I like to see that.
Good.
Number 7 was Oklahoma, Ollie Gordon. Number 6 was Jalen Milroe. And number 5 was Jordan Travis. So those were your 5 through 10 for the Heisman voting. Obviously, the ceremony tonight.
Crazy. Malik Neighbors even finished in 5 through 10. I was figuring you were going to say Malik Neighbors somewhere in that 7-8 range. If they were going to put Marvin Harrison in, I was expecting him to get some votes. So that's all right.
I mean, I think it's tough when your quarterback is as special as he is. I just think it's very tough to overshadow, I guess, like your quarterback. Like you got to think he's splitting votes with the guy who's on his team already. So the guys who would be voting for Malik Neighbors, like those guys have already put in their ballots for Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels took all those votes. So
definitely deserving too. So no argument from me.
Another fun show. I think Alex had a rough day. Took some body blows, but it's all right. Come back next week.
It's all right. I'm 3 hours behind. They haven't hit me yet.
Yeah. So next week, like I said, next week Bowl Mania is going to start. The next game, I think the first game is next Saturday. I think that's the first bowl game.
Indeed.
So listen, at some point, we're going to be here for all of them. We're going to preview all of them from the nobody cares popcorn bowl to all the way through the end. We're gonna have breakdowns. We're gonna have picks. We're gonna do all of them. We're gonna do Bowl Mania. That will be in conjunction, obviously, with Wire to Wire, all of our other shows. Anybody who listens will be able to sign up. I'm sure me, Jeannie Cottrell, Alex, we will come up with some sort of prize to the winner. The hosts are not eligible. Usually we do. It's usually the highest ranking person who isn't a part of one of the shows. Last 2 years it's been close because I think they have come in like second and third out of everybody the last couple of years. So we know our stuff. So I mean, listen, it's not tough to beat us. If one of us does win, it'll be the next fan down. That the Pop-Tart Bowl is very intriguing this year. I cannot believe that they let them name a bowl after the Pop-Tarts, but
brown sugar cinnamon, baby.
Yes.
Brown sugar cinnamon is what I was going to say, bro.
The best one.
We become best friends. And yes, Justin, it will be toasted also.
Yeah.
I don't need to toast it. Give me straight out the pack.
I'm with Cottrell. Raw dog it. But listen, we're going to break them all down. We will recap the Heisman next week, obviously. Hopefully, Army Navy for sure. We'll check in on the transfer portal again because, like I said, a lot of that's going to change. Some of those guys will be committed, and we'll have new guys in the portal. So we have plenty of content to finish out the season here, and we'll be back with you guys every Saturday. So, any closing remarks from you guys?
No, but Bowl Mania. Obviously, we said we're going to get it started here sometime this week. I will put that out. We'll put it out on the page, get it shared because want to get as many people in as possible to put in picks with the game starting next Saturday. We'll be able to promote it on Wednesday. Gene's got his shows on Thursday. And then, of course, next Saturday, we'll be right back at it. So it'll be up sometime this week. If I had to guess, I'd say probably Monday, maybe Tuesday.
Monday, Tuesday,
But we'll get it up there. We'll get it rolling. And, we'll figure out behind the scenes. We'll figure out what we're going to do for the winner.
Correct. So last year, actually the last 2 years, and especially last year, what was the prize last year? It was something good.
I think we did like a top 3 for last year, and we did
wasn't it swag last year?
A helmet. We did merch, and then we did the guest appearance.
Oh, there's one other because we did like the video game of your choosing or something too, something like that.
Yeah.
We do this twice a year. We do College Bowl Mania, obviously, and then we'll do March Madness. That's always a big one as well. So, but that's further down the road. But like I said, Cottrell said, we'll talk with Gene, this weekend and get everything hammered out. And we will, we'll get it up. We'll get the link up, and we'll go from there. But I think with everybody promoting this across all the shows this year, I want to get 100 people in it. We've been around 40 or 50 the last 2 years. I want to double that. I think we can get 100 people in this, and I think it'd be a lot of fun because it's going to get talked about, across all the shows. So we will, like I said, we'll get all that stuff up, and then, we'll be back next Saturday. Alex, you got anything, bud?
No, man, I'm excited for the bowl season to start. One game today makes me a little sad, but starting next week, we're going to be having 5 to 7 of the best games every single week with teams that we haven't gotten a chance to talk about, and I'm excited for that.
That's the cool part. We're going to talk about a lot of teams and a lot of players that you guys probably don't know about, which is a lot of fun. And you get pretty much bowl games every day of the week. You're going to come home from Wednesday and like the Bahamas Bowl will be on. Like it's
heck yeah.
You pretty much get college football every day from now until January 1st. So it's a lot of fun. A lot of days you have multiple games. So college football fans, best time of the year. So we will see you guys all next week. Enjoy your weekends, gentlemen, and we'll see everybody next week.